Nation, we're officially under 1 month before we figure out who the next core of Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be. We are under 1 month before the NFL draft. We are under 1 month from figuring out who will be the next center for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Draft a center, please.
And we are under 1 month before finding out who will be the next Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. And they are absolutely drafting a wide receiver very early. We all know that. That's a lock. That's inevitable. That's just going to happen. It's a necessity at this point because looking at the wide receiver room, I have to ask, what are the Steelers doing at wide receiver? Because our wide receiver room outside of George Pickens
is hella mid.
It is full of depth pieces. It's full of number 4 and 5s. And honestly, it's full of guys that have had little to no production in the last 2-3 years.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, let's just get right into the receiving room right now. George Pickens, obviously, number 1. Calvin Austin, who has very limited production in a Steelers uniform.
He's only played 1 year for us.
We then have Marquez Callaway, former Saints wide receiver, hasn't done much.
Does anyone remember when we signed him? When did that happen?
I don't recall. Van Jefferson, very, very limited production, most notably with the Rams, Super Bowl champion, but hasn't done much since that Super Bowl win. We have Denzel Mims. We all know how much of a bust he was. And we signed Quez Watkins, former Eagles wide receiver, who was a former 6th-round selection and pretty much produced at best as a wide receiver for Philly.
Yeah, he has some big playability. He has incredible speed in the slot. He has some drop issues. To me, man, it seems like this is nothing more than a depth signing, maybe a camp body, maybe competition for Calvin Austin. I don't know what Quez Watkins would add to the team that Jefferson doesn't. I mean, Watkins doesn't have any special teams value. He has very limited returns in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see Jefferson and Watkins both making the roster. They could, but as far as our wide receiver room right now, since we traded Deontay Johnson to the Panthers for Dante Jackson and some pick swaps, all we have is George Pickens. And now we know we're going to draft a receiver early. No one should be questioning that. No one should be concerned with us not drafting a receiver. It's going to happen. The question is, we still need depth, and I feel like we still need bodies in the wide receiver room. And it's not out the question that the Steelers could still add someone before the draft. We are still now officially under a month away, so they could still add bodies. They could still sign someone for agency. They can make a blockbuster move.
They could.
I mean, first of all, let's start with the free agency. There's still Josh Reynolds, who's more like a 3-4, and Tyler Boyd, who is a pure wide receiver 3.
And at this point right now is in a holdout, I would say, a standstill with the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to the money situation, because right now the Steelers currently have an offer on the table for Tyler Boyd. It's just that Tyler Boyd is looking for more money to come out.
Yeah, there is a stalemate between the Steelers and Tyler Boyd. I don't see the Steelers increasing their bid. I don't see the Steelers increasing their offer. They have a simple offer on the table. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, the Steelers are not a team that's going to be running towards a free agent, begging them, please come to the city of Pittsburgh, come to our team. They're not like that.
Yeah, they're not going to throw away all this money, especially for a guy like Tyler Boyd. Credit to Tyler Boyd. He's had a great NFL career. Would like to have him in Pitt, but not for what he wants, not for what he's asking.
And just primarily what his role is at the moment, at this time in his NFL career.
Yeah, he would be the 3. He could play the 2 outside, but he's primarily a slot guy. So he would be the 3, and he'd be very dependable depth. He's a very good target. I think we could use a guy like him and his football smarts and his leadership in the locker room for sure.
Nobody knows the offer the Steelers put out. Nobody even knows the offer that Tyler Boyd or how much Tyler Boyd's asking for. If it's a big money contract, no team's going to go out there and sign Tyler Boyd for however much he wants. Quite honestly, with this holdout that Tyler Boyd's doing, I mean, no team, especially the Steelers, no team's going to go out there and just give him that money. No. The longer he holds out, the less he's going to get it. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what other teams could grab him. I heard the Jets, maybe the Chiefs, but the Chiefs just signed, wasn't it Hollywood Brown?
Yeah, Marquez Brown. Maybe the Chargers could be involved. They have no wide receiver.
That's possible. I could see that. But, yeah, I mean, the Steelers aren't going to increase their bid, so either take it or leave it. So we'll see what Tyler Boyd's decision is. That's still an option. So is a Josh Reynolds, but that's about it.
That is it. I don't want Odell. I don't want Michael Thomas. I mean, those candidates are right out the window. No, thank you.
No, thank you. Can you say washed? I mean, my goodness. Yeah, I'm good. If they want to grab one of those guys, that would be advised because we need extra bodies. We need some dependability, like legitimate dependability at the wide receiver room because God forbid we suffer any injuries, knock on wood, to anyone. We have no fucking depth. Swear jar. No one.
Russell Wilson's better off throwing it to himself.
Yeah, and I know we're going to run the ball a lot, but we still need some receivers there.
It can't just be Pickens. I know we have Freiermuth. Darnell may see some more action in the receiving game with Arthur Smith's scheme.
Connor Hayward, but we need a wide receiver. We need guys in that room. You know they're going to draft one. I would hope they sign another guy in free agency. Or could they make a blockbuster trade and completely eliminate all this talk, all this speculation, or the immediate need for a receiver in the draft? You guys know what I'm alluding to. You guys know what I'm talking about.
And we're talking about Mike Tomlin's twin.
Brandon Aiyuk, correct. Brandon Aiyuk, man, the past week, he's been stirring some stuff up on social media, which
Stirring the pot.
which he doesn't typically do. Now, this could be all a big ploy by Aiyuk and or his agent to gain some leverage against the Niners to sign him and give him a big contract immediately.
Very possible.
Or could there be some fuel to the trade rumors fire? Could there be some smoke to that fire? Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan last week reported that the Steelers and Niners were having trade discussions about Brandon Aiyuk. Take it with a grain of salt, if you will, but like we just said, where there's smoke, there is fire. And John Lynch, at the annual meeting between GMs and head coaches that they do every year, the annual meeting there, John Lynch had some quite interesting comments to say regarding the trade rumors. He said this, and I quote, John Lynch said the 49ers are actively talking with Brandon Aiyuk, and there has been no trade discussions. All those reports are not accurate, Lynch said. He said the team would be okay with Aiyuk playing on the fifth-year option. Clearly, he wants to get an extension done. In response to this, or what we think is in response to this, Brandon Aiyuk posted this on his IG story. You guys can translate that. Money talks, bullshit walks. That could allude to anything, but with Aiyuk's name heavily in the trade rumor mill and the inevitable extension anywhere with Aiyuk, I mean, you got to think that's in relation to what he said, to what his GM said. I don't know. Anything can happen in the NFL.
Yeah, big time.
Anything can happen. Anyone can be traded. I'm sure Lynch and the Niners definitely want to keep Aiyuk. He's one of their biggest playmakers. He definitely doesn't want to let his former first-rounder walk. Why would he?
No.
I mean, he is the number one receiver. He can be a number one receiver. He is a number one receiver, let's be honest. The guy has all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Lynch wants to get rid of him. But, you know, crazier things have happened.
It could very well come down to just strictly a business move and a cap move when it comes to the 49ers. I mean, they extended Deebo Samuel. Even back when Deebo Samuel wanted to leave San Francisco, he requested a trade, but they rekindled. They gave him a big money contract, which was one of the biggest at the time, I believe. Mm-hmm. You know, they extended Nick Bosa. They extended Christian McCaffrey. They extended Fred Warner. They're soon going to be extending Brock Purdy down the road. Yeah. They're going to need that cap space to keep Purdy, since he's the quarterback one.
Right.
When it comes to Aiyuk wanting a big money contract, I mean, how much more cap space are they going to have? So it could very well come down to just a strictly business and cap space move for the 49ers.
Yeah,
they'd be losing a star player, a star wide receiver, but it's just business.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen in the NFL. So,
it could happen draft day.
So there could be, Lynch could be correct on this. There could be no discussions. There could be no trade talks whatsoever. Or this could all be a big ploy by Aiyuk to gain leverage on the Niners to sign him immediately or as fast as possible because he wants the bag. He deserves the bag. I mean, he might get traded. He might not. If he does get traded, it might not be to the Steelers. But, you know, he's been heavily rumored to them according to a report just last week, whether you want to believe it or not. So we'll see what happens. Anything's possible. This could be a draft day move. For all we know.
Yeah, who remembers the 2022 draft when A.J. Brown and Marquise Brown got traded for first rounders?
Yeah.
Remember that crazy wild night? Trades were happening with those two wide receivers.
Hey,
it could happen again with Aiyuk.
The draft rooms and the phones are going to be ringing nonstop
within a month's time.
Under a month's time, man. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. But most likely, most definitely, out of everything that's going to happen, and we already know this, the Steelers are going to draft a wide receiver. The question is, how high are they going to draft a wide receiver? Ideally within the first 2 picks. They could wait till round 3 if they really wanted to because of how deep it is. And Mike Tomlin alluded to that with his comments at the annual meetings. But undoubtedly, center and wide receiver are our 2 biggest needs because we have no center. We have no lean on at center. And we have no one in the wide receiver room outside of Pickens.
No
one. So, yeah, they're probably going to be the first 2 picks, undoubtedly. Could they go wide receiver first round? The answer is yes, they could. That's not out to them a possibility. They haven't done it since Antonio Holmes. And regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers and their common trend, it alludes to them taking a receiver day 2, most likely. And telling by their history, do they need to take receiver round 1? But it also depends how hot or how the boards fall, how the draft boards go.
Yeah. Just who's available on the board, who they see as this star receiver in the making, the potential out of that prospect.
Yeah.
Just how the draft goes.
Yeah, and according to Mark Caboli of The Atlantic, he said this regarding Mike Tomlin's comments at the annual meeting. He said, Tomlin said needs to be work done at center and receiver. Still options out there in free agency, but believes there are many wide receivers that can come in and contribute ASAP and a handful of centers in the draft. But also said after a couple centers in the draft, it will likely not be plug and play. He is pretty much saying, yeah, wide receiver is stacked. We could take a receiver anywhere, and they will contribute immediately. They will immediately be wide receiver 2, no matter who it is, no matter where we draft them, as long as it's within the first 2 days.
Yep.
He can't say the same thing for center. Only a handful of centers are plug and play. You guys already know the names.
Top 3, that's it.
Top 3, top 4, maybe.
Arguably 4, but mainly the top 3. But outside of that, yes. There's really nobody else.
So with his comments, he might be saying, hey, we're going to go center. He might be prioritizing center more importantly than wide receiver.
Which I hope that they do because we have neglected that position for far too long. Nothing but fill-ins.
And in our personal opinion, center is the biggest need. We can wait for receiver
We just
round
don't
2.
have one.
We don't.
And there's nobody out there they can grab at the moment.
And I'm not risking losing on one of the top 3 or 4 centers and then having to draft someone later to not be plug and play and start who at center? Nate Herbig? No, thank you. No. So I would much rather grab my center, know that I got that sealed for 10 to 15 years.
You got that protection for Russell Wilson, who, by the way, needs it. He was the most sacked quarterback since 2020, and he needs that protection to throw the ball to his targets.
And he knows he can fall back on receiver because it is stacked. And they have met with all the top wide receivers, including first-round guys, as well as a ton of day 2 guys. In fact, I'll give you guys some names right now. Malachi Corley had his pro day today at Western Kentucky, right? The Steelers sent their new wide receiver coach.
Yeah.
What's his name? Zach Gazzani?
Zach Gazzani.
If I remember correctly.
And McCorley stood out from what I heard.
Yeah, I mean there were a ton of NFL representatives. I think representatives from all 30, not all 30, 31 to 32 teams.
Yeah.
Almost every single
majority
team.
Majority of them, yeah.
Yeah, they sent a lot of representatives to that pro day specifically for Malachi Corley. And he didn't run drills, but he did the basics. He did the things he didn't do at the combine. And he shined and made and burst his numbers through the roof.
Yeah,
to the point his stock
he
is going to
boosted
rise.
that, yeah.
Yeah, stock is going to rise. So they've looked at Malachi Corley. They've talked to Xavier Legette. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. Same thing with Ricky Pearsall. In fact, they talked to Rome, who's going to be arguably a top 10 pick, but they talked to Rome from Washington.
Yeah, Rome Odunze.
They've talked to Brian Thomas. In fact, in relation to those guys, LSU's pro day is, I believe, Wednesday, and the Steelers are typically, they have a presence at LSU's pro day, and Washington's pro day is the day right after, on Thursday. It'll be interesting to see what Steelers representatives are going to be present at the Washington pro day because not only is there a ton of talent coming out of that school, but there's 3 wide receivers coming out of that school alone.
Yeah.
So they're keeping their eye on everybody. It's going to be very interesting to see who they send to which pro day. They already sent their wide receiver coach, their new wide receiver coach, to Western Kentucky to look at one of the top day 2 guys in Malachi Corley. They've talked to some first-round guys. I guarantee you there's going to be some representatives at their schools this week at LSU and at Washington. So they've looked up and down the boards. So they're going to draft a receiver. We don't know who, but we know they're going to draft one and very high. Definitely within the first 2 picks, if I had to give you a prediction. And as they should. They need to. So what are the Steelers doing at wide receiver? Not much of anything right now. Maybe Omar Khan has got something cooking because he's been quiet. He's been pretty quiet. He's also been a very busy man.
But usually when Khan's quiet, he tends to be stirring something up.
Yeah. At least that's the impression that us Steelers fans are now receiving because of Omar Khan's aggression in the front office.
Yes, indeed.
So perhaps, yes, he is stirring something up behind closed doors. And as of now, they've signed nothing but number 4 or 5s for depth. That's it. Camp bodies, pretty much.
Well, at the moment, they're doing their due diligence with the draft.
Yeah.
As it is draft time, we're under a month before the draft, and that's pretty much the main focus for Khan and company, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers.
So the question is, should us Steelers fans, should Steelers Nation be concerned? Should they be worried about the wide receiver room? In my opinion, the answer is no, because we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. We draft receiver incredibly. Our history, you guys already know this, I don't have to say it, is endless. It is so rich. There is a long list of names.
That's pretty
Multiple Hall of Famers.
That's the only explanation that you guys need to hear. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers.
But as well as we know they're going to draft someone. We know it's going to happen. So there is no concern that they won't add another receiver. They will. My concern is dependability and depth. That's where my concern is at. So, yes, right now the wide receiver room doesn't look great, especially after trading Deontay. And quick update on him, according to Mike Tomlin, he said it at the annual meetings as well. Deontay did not request a trade, which was interesting. He did not request a trade like we all thought, but they still trade Deontay anyway, which tells me either they had an opportunity to get a player back that they just couldn't pass on to fill a hole like they did with Dante Jackson, which is pretty much what Mike Tomlin said. That was his explanation. Or were they just tired of his antics in the locker room? Were they tired of his social media antics?
Well, according to Jerry Dulac, that was one of the primary reasons.
Yeah.
Not to be a negative influence for George Pickens. And I can understand.
Yeah.
I really could.
And honestly, I mean, it's business. It's business. Would Deontay have came back? I don't know. Maybe not. But he's gone. That's over and done with. And maybe I'm underappreciating Deontay, but as of right now, I'm not going to miss him. Because we're the Steelers. We draft receivers incredibly.
We already have his replacement. That's George Pickens.
Yeah, and we're going to draft a wide receiver. So, no, I am not concerned with this wide receiver room. At least not yet. At least not yet.
We'll see how everything plays out, but leading into the draft and seeing the wide receiver class from top to bottom, I mean,
This is
you can get a stud anywhere.
This is the most stacked wide receiver class maybe ever. So, in terms of are we concerned? Should you guys be concerned? My answer is no, because we're going to draft a stud. They have done their due diligence. They've looked at everyone. And without a doubt, they're going to grab someone that is going to make an immediate impact and be another great weapon for our offense.
You know it.
So, in relation to the wide receiver room, it's one of those wait-and-see games. We have less than a month till we figure out who exactly that will be. But at the same time, anything can happen before then. We could add extra bodies. We can make a blockbuster move. Who knows, man? A lot can still go down in a month's time. But that's pretty much the update on the wide receiver room. Yeah, there are still concerns, and I don't blame you guys. My concern is mostly with the depth. But, yeah, they're going to add a guy. We all know that.
No doubt about it.
So that's going to happen. But how do you guys feel about this wide receiver room? How do you guys feel about the additions we made? How do you feel about the future? How do you feel about the draft? Is there anyone that you guys specifically want to see the Steelers draft? Let us know in the comments below. Love to hear your guys' interaction and your guys' opinions. It is draft time, and it is officially mock draft season. So keep in tune for more mock drafts coming out throughout the month, throughout the rest of this month, and, of course, April. So we're almost in mock draft month, but let us know your guys' thoughts down below. Appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!